You already have some knowledge of this case, and that is the EDR Crosspoint software purchased by Brevard Public Schools investigation. Just kind of recap, in April of 2015, the Economic Crimes Task Force initiated an investigation concerning allegations of fraud regarding EDR Crosspoint software purchased by Brevard Public Schools that was initially purchased in 2013. The allegations related to concerns over the price, functionality, and research or knowledge of the software prior to purchase. There was an additional concern that the purchase was addressed as an upgrade to an existing service contract rather than a new purchase, thus eliminating the bidding process. The subsequent investigation determined that the school board contracted with EDR Crosspoint for services to include software development. EDR Crosspoint had contracted with other school districts who either have or are using the developed software. It was found that the software or portion thereof was delivered to the school district. An additional part of the investigation, the purchase was voted upon and approved by the Brevard Public School Board during an open public meeting. The school board was aware that this was a new software package and that Brevard County was a pilot site. I want to share with you before we go any further that this was a very extensive investigation that had a lot of different paths and angles that, again, our economic crimes unit was tasked with thoroughly vetting and thoroughly investigating. A lot of different witnesses, different interviews, everything else that went into the aspect of it. At the conclusion of the investigation and after multiple discussions with the state attorney's office and the U.S. Department of Education, the investigative findings do not support any allegation that the purchase of the software was a scheme to defraud or included any type of criminal conduct. So essentially the investigation resulted in that there's no criminal conduct identified or anything that would be prosecuted. And I think when you look at the case, probably the best way to sum it up is some very bad business practices that took place long before the current administration was in place. And our team has, in my opinion, and that of the state attorney's office, has thoroughly vetted it, and there are no criminal charges to come from that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Blackburn.
Thank you, Sheriff. Although the sheriff's investigation did not lead to any arrests or anything that will be prosecuted, it did reiterate and confirm, as the sheriff mentioned, procedural weaknesses that were in place at the time that this board, this administration, has since cleared up. Staff at Brevard Public Schools remains frustrated with the business software, which has failed to adequately run district financial services, accounting, and human resources. We here at BPS were perhaps in 2013 just a little too trusting, a little too hasty in agreeing to spend millions of dollars on an unproven product from a vendor, which has since been acquired by Harris Solutions. That is why we are, with our attorneys, pursuing a settlement agreement with Harris that would return value to the taxpayers and to the staff in a combination of money and maintenance of our older, still functioning computer system. That is also why we, this board, this administration, we've taken several steps internally to ensure that we make smarter decisions on behalf of our stakeholders. Those steps include subjecting more major purchases to more scrutiny by managers from multiple disciplines before taking them to the school board for review and approval. These steps also include sending more proposed contracts to be carefully reviewed by an attorney. Definitely want to thank the staff for their patience and their loyalty. We certainly pledge to continue to serve the families of this community with excellence and integrity. A lot of people want to know, so what are we going to do now with that software package? Like I said, it's in the hands of our attorney to recover our resources. As far as the functionality, I've mentioned before, we are functioning as a school system. That said, we are going to go back and do what I believe should have been done many moons ago, and that is do a full and complete assessment of all of our technology needs, create a technology strategic plan, and what, if any, solutions we need, we're going to send those solutions out to be competitively bid to ensure that every potential solution receives a very thorough cost-benefit analysis before spending any resources on that. I won't elaborate too much to the work being done on our behalf by our attorneys for very obvious reasons. Hopefully you appreciate that.
Any questions?
So the settlement that we're seeking from Harris School Solutions would be for the $5.9 million that we've already spent on the software, correct?
So we spent about $5.5 million. I've mentioned before that they successfully delivered about 41%, only about 10% actually in place for our employees. So those percentages kind of identifies for you a gap between what's been paid and what we've successfully received and what we have in place, right? So we are looking to close the gap on what we've paid and what we have received.
And we'll continue to not pay Harris School Solutions.
Absolutely.
Anything else? All right, so before we close, and I alluded to it earlier, but I will just again, the Economic Crimes Unit for our agency and our county does an amazing job with very difficult cases that you can see are very long-term and protracted cases, but I will give them great credit. Sergeant Neal and Sergeant Heron both have, Sergeant Heron's currently the sergeant over our Economic Crimes Unit, and Sergeant Neal was over it before. They and their team do a great job. And you know, sometimes these cases are tough. We know that they're going to have an impact on the community, but they roll up their sleeves and get it done. And I'm truly proud of them, the work they do, and also the team here, the financial team under Dr. Blackburn, and all of them that work together to get it done. So with that, we appreciate again your patience, and thank you for all you guys do to support both Brevard Public Schools and the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. Appreciate it.
Thank you.